Hey friend, I'm so glad you're here. It feels so good to be back recording new episodes of the podcast. This episode is a little bit like a catch-up chat. We have had the MilSpouse Reset series happening all summer while I've been PCSing. But the last time you and I chatted, I was getting ready for another PCS. It's my 7th move in the last 10 years, my 2nd summer in a row PCSing. So what happened this summer? How did the PCS go? Was it as awful a PCS season as some people predicted? Well, let's talk about it all inside this episode of More Than a MilSpouse. Welcome to More Than a MilSpouse, the podcast for military spouses who want to live with more meaning and less overwhelm. I'm your host, Christine, seasoned military spouse, mom of 3, life coach, and your guide to intentionally designing a life you're excited about as a military spouse. I'm here to help you get the clarity you need so you can get unstuck and unlock your purpose and potential. Because you, my friend, are more than a MilSpouse. You have something valuable to offer. And when you pursue the things that light your heart on fire, you trade frustration for fulfillment and isolation for a life of impact. It's time to discover who you are meant to be, because together we can change the world. I'm back. It feels good to be back, having a conversation with you, getting to update you on my life and talking about the things that really matter to us as military spouses. We are over here kicking off a new school year. Hopefully, over the summer, you had some time to do something fun, and hopefully you took a little time to listen to the MilSpouse Summer Reset series. There were so many great episodes to help us think through all of these core areas of our lives and to kind of take that time to figure out what is important to you, what do you want your life to look and feel like as we step into a new fall season. I know it's still really hot outside in a lot of places, but it does feel like we are ending the summer season and stepping into a new season. But I hope that it gave you an opportunity to think about what you want your life to look and feel like and how to make the most of the time you have right now. I would love to chat with you. If you had a favorite episode from the series, if you have questions about anything we covered this summer, if you want us to dig deeper into any of the topics that we covered, just send me a message. Find me on Instagram or come jump inside our free Facebook community. I would love to hear from you. I have been over here in our new house trying to get everything set up, trying to get our systems and rhythms in place and figuring out what that looks like for this year. This weekend, I had another long weekend of freezer meal prep. If you have been around for a while, then you know that I am a huge proponent of freezer meals. I have been doing this for almost probably 10 years now. It started when my oldest was a baby and my husband was deployed, and I needed a way to make meals and have something to eat other than just fast food or frozen meals that I got from the store. So I have developed this process over the years. I can now make almost 50 meals in a single weekend. But once I get that freezer full, I know that we are set up for success for the next few months. I know that my kids are going to be jumping into after school activities soon, and I want to give us a little bit of breathing room, and freezer meals help us do just that. If you're interested in getting started, I have an episode from the archives that I did early on in my podcasting journey. I will link that in the show notes. You can go back and listen to kind of how this journey started and what I do. Even though it's not something that we talk about frequently on the podcast, it is part of the systems and routines that I use to set our family up for success. But today I really want to talk about this journey of PCSing over this summer and what that's looked like for me and some of the things that I am taking away from this experience. Like I said, I've moved a lot. Every summer that we move, and yes, we have had the benefit of getting to move in the summer, so it's not like we're trying to move around the holidays or in the middle of a school year or anything. So thankfully, we've gotten to have all of our moves thus far in the summer. But everyone is unique, and every move I learn something different, and I continue to learn how to do this PCS process. There's always things that go well, things that don't go well. So let's talk about what I experienced and what I learned this summer in PCS 2025. So let's start by talking about why this summer was unique. And we talked about this in the spring, but you had the rollout of the global household goods contract with Home Safe Alliance and a lot of stress and worry and fear about what that was going to do to the moving system, to people's stuff, and what that was going to look like. We were first put into that system, and they could not find a company to move us. So several weeks later, we were pulled back out, put back in the legacy system. So I felt a big sense of relief when that happened, but I know a lot of families were still stuck in the middle of that. And as that began to roll out, and as there were more and more issues, something totally unprecedented happened. The Pentagon actually canceled the contract. I was blown away because I have seen a lot of systems that don't seem to work well and that nobody does anything about. And it's just kind of like, well, there's nothing we can do about it now. But in this case, something actually happened. It was bad enough that things got changed, I think, for the better. And everybody that had not yet used Home Safe Alliance was rolled back into the legacy system. Now, there were still a lot of effects of that. Actually, when we were packing out, we had been assigned to a local moving company, and the owner of the company actually stopped by, and he was talking about how badly this contract had been rolled out, and moving companies were like, we cannot work with this system. We cannot do it. And so there was a lot of hesitation across the moving industry of how do we handle this? And so they were not able to hire the number of people they usually would have hired or the people with the most experience. So we'll talk about what that looked like for me a little bit later. But as we are kicking off the summer and we're dealing with all of this, and we're like, okay, we're just going to have to let it happen and see what happens. So they come in, they pack up all of our things. We actually got 4 days, which was a long time to have packers and movers there. They did not need that much time, in my opinion, especially because they started by packing up all of our kitchen stuff and packing up our living room TV. So for 4 days, we are unable to use most of the things that we own in our kitchen, and we are unable to watch anything on the TV, which, if you have moved a lot, you know that is the last things that you want to have packed. You want to have your kitchen, you want to have your beds, and you want to have a TV packed last. That is not what happened, although our beds did get packed last. So I am grateful for that. At the same time, my car went into the shop, which I thought was only going to be, 4 or 5 days. It ended up being in the shop for over 2 weeks, and we barely got it back in enough time for us to leave town. So what was different for me this summer was that it was my first stateside move since 2018. My last 3 moves have all been OCONUS PCSs. We've moved overseas, which just has a lot more moving pieces to it. So it's like, oh, okay, I'm doing a stateside move this time. There's one shipment. I don't have to break this up into multiple shipments and figure out what's going in what shipment. We're just going from point A to point B. And really, it was only 8-9 hours from the total distance that we were going. So we decided to make a big family road trip out of this summer because we had the time, a relatively simple PCS. And so we decided, hey, let's take this opportunity to go see some family, go see some parts of the country we've never seen before, and just make a family adventure out of it. And so that was new for us. But I absolutely loved it, and I learned some stuff on the way. But I was very grateful that we got our car back just in time to be able to leave on this trip, because we were like, if the car is not done today, then we're going to have to start changing up our road trip plans, and this is not going to work out the way that we intended. But thankfully, it all came together. They got the parts that they needed to put the car back together in time. And so, the day before, we got our van back after being in the shop for over 2 weeks. So it can never be a dull moment when it comes to PCSing. So when I think about the lessons that I take from this PCS, this summer 2025, I think the first thing for me personally was just having the realization that I am building capacity. Let me unpack this idea. What do I mean when I say building capacity? There's a lot when it comes to PCSing. There's a reason that it is a stressful experience. When you look at all of the well-known life stressors, moving from one place to another is one of those major stressors in life. But when you do it, you get better at it. You become more aware of how to do it well, how to do it better, how to take care of yourself in the process. When you've never done something before and you don't have any concept for what it looks like, it can feel overwhelming. So if you have not PCSed before, if this is your first PCS, your second PCS, there's a lot that just comes with moving your life, uprooting it, moving it from point A to point B. But, I've done this several times, right? I've done it 7 times in 10 years. And so every opportunity to move comes with new challenges. But over time, I get better at it. I learn tricks that help me do it better. And I've shared before on the podcast that one of the most important things that I've learned, and I think does not get talked about enough, is taking care of yourself in the process. Because we get so focused on, how am I taking care of my stuff? Are the movers going to take care of my stuff? How am I going to make sure that nothing gets lost, nothing gets broken? We get so focused on taking care of our stuff that we often forget to take care of ourselves. And the more that we can take care of ourselves, the better off we will be. But the more that you do something, the more that you build this capacity. And I had so much other things on my plate during this PCS, more than I think I have ever had before, because I wasn't just offloading things. When I was involved in the spouses club, you kind of finish those duties, you hand them off to the next person, you're kind of rolling back what is on your plate as you are getting ready to move. But this time I didn't really have a lot of things that I was offloading off my plate. I was still working. I was still meeting with clients. I was still getting my coaching certification hours in. I was trying to make sure the podcast was ready to go for the summer. I was trying to figure out how to entertain the kids while the movers were here, because in the past, several times they have been at school when the Packers actually came, and they're out of school for the summer. So that was new for us. And it just felt like one thing after another were kind of stacked on top of each other. And at the same time, I'm trying to plan this big road trip for our family. So there was a lot more on my plate this particular PCS, even though it was more of a overall simple PCS from the perspective of, hey, I'm just moving from point A to point B. And I had this realization that it's not just that it's hard, it's that I'm building capacity. I'm learning how to be able to handle more, because the more that I do this, the more that I'm able to accomplish. And it's going to help me in future seasons where I just have a lot on my plate. I'm building the capacity to be able to handle those busy seasons. Now, this is not something that's sustainable long term, but we do have seasons in life where there's nothing we can do to offload things from our plate. It's just a season where there's a lot on our plate, where a lot is being asked of us, and we have to figure out, how do we show up in those seasons? Can we show up with grace and with patience and the ability to take care of ourselves in the process? And that was a big learning point for me, that this is not just something that I feel overwhelmed, but I'm building the capacity to be able to handle these busy seasons better. So my first takeaway was that I am in the process of building this capacity. The second big learning point for me this summer came from our 2-week road trip, which was fantastic. We got to drive along the eastern coast. We got to make a lot of stops at places I have wanted to see that have been on my bucket list for a while. We got to catch up with friends from previous duty stations and get together with them. I got to see extended family that I rarely get to see. So there was a lot of good things about this summer road trip. But I realized I was really, really busy before we left. And then we were going and going and going while we were on this trip. And then as soon as we got to our new duty station, we unpacked, and then I immediately jumped on a plane because I had already booked a conference to attend before I even knew we were moving. And it was a lot. And so even though I was doing my best to take care of myself, I realized I needed to build in a little bit more downtime into our summer. Our trip was fun, but had we had 1 or 2 more days of just time to rest and not feel like we were going and doing and seeing all the things, I think it would have helped the entire family adjust to all of the things that we were doing. Everybody was just a little bit overtired by the time we got to our new location. And then we had, a house full of boxes to unpack. So just building in a little more margin would have been helpful. So that was like the second thing that we're like, okay, we're keeping this in mind for the future. The third thing that we learned, even though the global household goods contract was canceled, and I am grateful for that. And I know some families really struggled because they had issue after issue. And so I don't want to minimize that. But I will say I'm thankful that our move went as smoothly as possible. And also, it was not my favorite moving crew. I think more than anything, it comes down to the specific crew that you get, and these were not the best packers. I am amazed that more things did not get broken because they were not packed as well as I have seen them packed in the past. So there was definitely more damage than the last few moves. Now that could also be because the last few moves have been overseas, and I think when they crate things to ship overseas, they pack things a little bit better. But there was just more things that were damaged or broken or not really labeled well, and items that I don't understand why they were packed together. It was not the best move we had. But I am grateful that we did not have more damage. I think a lot of that just goes back to because the moving companies struggled so much this summer, they couldn't hire the help that they really needed to ensure that people had a good PCS experience. So it was a little rougher than I'm used to, but I'm thankful that most of our stuff made it. And, at this point in our journey as a military family, I'm like, let's just hold off buying anything that I really have a strong attachment to until my husband is done, because the stuff we have has served us well. Let's just keep using it until it falls apart. That's what I feel like at this moment. So, it was a little bit rougher than I was hoping, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been. So I'm taking that as a win. The next big learning point, I think, from this summer PCS was that it's important to do what you can to maintain your routines, but give yourself grace in the process. And here's what I mean by this. I set a goal for myself last year, and I got really focused on my health and my fitness, my nutrition, trying to make sure I was getting enough protein, trying to make sure I was working out consistently. And that's great when you're in a groove. But PCSing kind of pulls apart all of those systems and routines that we have. And because I was on the road for almost a month, it became really hard to maintain a lot of those routines. So I really had to go back to, okay, what are the things that I can be consistent about for the summer? And what do I need to just say, hey, I need to let this go without ruining all of the work that I have done and all of the progress that I have made, because I have done that before in the past, and just say, to heck with it. I'm just gonna do whatever because I can't be consistent with the things that I'm working on. And so I didn't want to completely let it go. And so it was finding those ways of, what can I be consistent about, and what do I need to just say, I'm going to give myself grace, and I'm going to do the best that I can and release the outcome, So for me personally, that looked like, okay, I'm going to try to get a certain number of steps in every day. I'm going to try to hit a certain amount of protein every day. And I'm just going to try to stay active as much as possible. I'm not going to go to the gym because most of the time there's not a way for me to do that. Now, if we are staying in a hotel and there's a gym and it works with our family schedule, then yes, I'm there. But honestly, I did not really do any of my workouts that I'd been really consistent about until we moved throughout the summer. And so now I'm finding those new routines, but it was just to say, hey, for the next, month, 2 months, I'm going to have to be okay with the fact that I can't hit all of my goals right now. But what can I do? And try to do as well as I can to be consistent with that. Because, dude, I don't want to gain an extra 10 pounds every time I PCS if I'm going to PCS this much. So what can I control, and what do I need to release? And just asking that question was really, really helpful for me this summer. My fifth takeaway from this PCS 2025 was that finding your groove takes time. I know this theoretically, but I experience it every time we move. It just takes time to find your groove, to find your routines, to find the systems, to find the people, to figure out what works for you in your new location. It just takes time. And as much as I try to shortcut this process, it's okay. It takes time. And so if you are just PCSing for the first time or for the 10th time, just remind yourself, it takes time to find your systems, your routines, your groove, and it will come. It will happen. You just got to give it time. And last but not least, I think this is the thing that I want all of us to take from this PCS, from all of life. This thing holds true, and it is this: do not give up. It is easy to compare ourselves to those around us who may not have as much on their plate, or might not be dealing with a deployment, or might not be PCSing. And to say, well, they're able to do so much more than I can right now. And we can look at them and look at what they're doing and feel frustrated. And so much so that it's easy for us to sometimes give up. It's not possible for me. I'm not good enough. I need to wait for some future season. But what I want you and I and every military spouse to take away from this is, please don't give up on that dream, that goal. Keep going, keep working at it, even when it feels hard, even when it feels impossible, even when it feels like you're not making progress. There is a reason that dream is on your heart, and I want to encourage you to keep pursuing it, keep going after it, keep doing what you can to make the most of this life we have. Friend, if nobody has told you lately, I want you to know that you are amazing, and there is something here on this planet for you to do. So go figure out what that is, go pursue it, and please never give up. I hope this was encouraging to you. I would love to hear which of these takeaways resonates most with you. Drop me a line, let me know. Join our free Facebook community. You can find out all of the ways to connect with me by going to my website, morethanamilspouse.com. Until next time, may you live filled, fueled, and full of joy. Hey, amazing Mill Spouse, before you go, I want you to know that I love hearing from you. The More Than a Mill Spouse community exists to help you thrive as a military spouse. Figure out what lights your heart on fire and empower you to live with purpose and impact. You can have an incredible impact simply by heading over to iTunes to subscribe and leave a review. But your impact doesn't stop there. You can empower those around you simply by sharing an episode with a friend or neighbor, someone who needs a little encouragement in this military life. And if this episode was meaningful to you, spread the love by taking a screenshot of this episode and tagging me on Instagram so we can continue to reach more people, change more lives, and shift the way that military spouses look at life. Because we are better together. Together, we can change the world. Let's do it.